later, hang on, I haven't finished. 20 years later, try this at the answer, otherwise you won't know. You will remain ignorant. They don't like to hear the other side of the story. They would rather walk away than hear the other side of the story. That sums up the Palestinians. They live in a dream. Well, goodbye. Just like the Palestinian leadership have walked away from every peace offer they've been given. So, when Egypt made peace with Israel, Israel ended the temporary occupation of the Sinai Peninsula. When Jordan made peace with Israel, Israel ended the occupation of the Jordanian part. The Palestinians are told, when you make peace with Israel, the occupation will end. But like that lady over there, they won't. It's up to them. It's up to them.
But the land to peace policy has in reality been abandoned since Israel pulled out of Gaza. And the hawks of Israel predicted what would happen. Gaza became the launch pad for attacks on Israel.
Yep.
The whole attitude of Israel, particularly the governmental attitude, has changed. Land for peace is no longer the point.
Well, you say actually it is. Do you know, Benjamin Netanyahu the other day was having a televised meeting with Donald Trump. Donald Trump said his preference is for a two-state solution, and Prime Minister Netanyahu said if we can get peace that way. They've never said we don't want a two-state solution. What they say is, who do we negotiate with? Mohammed Abbas for 10 years hasn't negotiated. Hamas won't even sit in the same room with Israeli. Who do they negotiate with? They still say we'd like a two-state solution. We've got no one to talk to.
Netanyahu and the Hawks point to the Gaza, and in reality they say, look what happens when we pull out.
Absolutely.
And therefore, in reality, Netanyahu and his government are not really prepared to pull back from the West Bank.
Exactly.
Yes, okay, I'll answer that. You make a good point. He pointed out that Israel's temporarily occupied the West Bank and Gaza, the two Palestinian areas, territories, whatever you want to call them. They unilaterally pulled out of Gaza as a goodwill gesture, took all the settlers out, all the army out, all the Israeli police out, handed over to full Palestinian control. And what happened? Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade started firing missiles from Gaza into Israel.
And suicide bombers.
Okay, and sent suicide bombers. So then when people say Israel should put out of the West Bank, they say, look what happened we put out of Gaza, no peace deal, we just got missiles. If we put out of the West Bank without a peace deal, got Hamas who are there, Islamic Jihad are there, they'll fire missiles into Israel. What's the point? We're not going to pull out until we've got a peace deal. And I think that's the right policy.
If Israel was really serious about a two-state solution, why are they continuing to build settlements?
Okay, the settlements. I'm against the building of settlements. It's not a smart idea. But what you've got to know is, the borders were never set between Israel and Palestine. There was a ceasefire line, and that ceasefire line says these are not the final borders. So Israel is over-optimistic. They've allowed people to go and build settlements there, and they say that when there's a peace deal, some of those settlements will be in Palestine under Palestinian rule, but some will be incorporated into Israel, and Israel will give them some land in lieu of it. So it doesn't need to be a problem, but it doesn't make Israel look good in the meantime.
It is a problem.
And I got a badge here saying Israel stop building on Arab land. There's another thing. When the United Nations partitioned the land to a Jewish state and an Arab state, all the Jews in the Arab state were kicked out. Killed or kicked out, every one of them. They owned loads of properties there and land there. Now, when the occupation began, which the Arabs started by the attack on Israel, some of those people who'd been kicked out went back to their properties that they owned, and the world said, oh, it's a settlement. Well, the Jews owned the land. All the other settlements they built, they bought the land. They go to Palestinians, they buy the land. Now, why not blame the Palestinians for selling the land to the Israelis in the first place? But I still say it's not a good idea. Even though those settlements have factories and they employ thousands and thousands of Palestinians in an area of high employment, that's good. Do you know, in Britain, the Japanese have built loads of factories, Toyota, Nissan and Honda. We don't tell them to get out. We say, oh, come and build more factories here. and the Palestinians want to work on those factories in the settlements. When there's a peace deal, some of those factories will be in Palestine, and if the Palestinians allow some Jews to stay there, those factories will stay there. But if the Palestinians say all Jews out, they'll take their factories with them.
Can I ask you a question? What dangers do you see in the slowly increasing, but nonetheless increasing, boycotts of Israeli goods? What danger do you see?
Okay, yes. Some Palestinians have been, not all of them, some have been calling for boycotts of Israel. And the far left around Europe, around the world, in fact, are say, yes, let's boycott Israel. Luckily in Britain, trade with Israel has gone up a couple of 100% in the last few years. Most sensible people say, we know Israel's got problems, we know it wants a peace process, we're happy to trade with Israel and to encourage the Palestinians to sign a peace deal. So most people around the world still do trade with Israel. Every year that I go to Israel, the number of tourists is going up and up and up. But some people are calling for a boycott of Israel. Do you know who suffered from it most? The Palestinians. There was a group called SodaStream, an Israeli company. They had a factory in Palestine employing Palestinians, about 700 of them. Because of the boycotts, Israel, well, the company has moved that factory out of the West Bank into Israel. So 750 Palestinians lost their jobs. The same thing is now happening with a group called Ahava, who make Dead Sea products. They are moving now out of the West Bank into Israel. So yes, a couple of thousand Palestinians have lost their jobs because of the boycotts, and incidentally, that means a couple of thousand Israelis have now got jobs, the ones that the Palestinians used to have. So it doesn't help the Palestinians boycotting Israeli products.